The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our webinar. We'll begin in about a minute. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCNM's webinar. We're very excited to bring you this interactive online experience that will let you learn more about losing weight naturally through naturopathic medicine. I know this presentation will be informative, whether you're looking to pick up some tips and techniques about how to manage your own weight naturally, or are viewing this through the lens of a prospective naturopathic medical student and are interested in how you might work with your patients to help them manage their weight. My name is Eve Belotis, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Before we begin, let me take a moment to familiarize you with the technology that we'll be using today for today's webinar. You'll need, first make sure that your control panel is expanded. There should be a box like the one shown in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you do not see this box, look for a double arrow. Click these arrows and your box will expand. Second, make sure that you can see my desktop, which currently shows the image of the webinar control panel. And this is how you'll view today's presentation. You will have an opportunity to ask questions. To do so, just type the questions into the box indicated here, and your questions will be answered verbally at the end of the presentation. We anticipate today's webinar to run approximately 60 minutes, 40 minutes of presentation, followed by 20 minutes of question and answer. Before we begin, let me give you a brief introduction to naturopathic medicine. Many of you know that NDs concentrate on whole patient wellness, attempting to find the underlying causes of a patient's conditions rather than focusing on the symptomatic treatment. And typically, naturopathic doctors use natural therapies rather than synthetic drugs. And this is especially important as you'll hear from Dr. Purcell in just a little bit about dealing with weight loss. This morning, you'll be hearing from Dr. Andrea Purcell, who is an alumna of SCNM. Dr. Purcell has a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and she received her doctorate of naturopathic medicine right here from Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona. She's been in practice for over 12 years and is licensed as a natural medical doctor in both Arizona and California, and currently practices in both states. Dr. Purcell is a certified practitioner of the blood type diet, the Wiley protocol, ozone oxidative therapy, and Wilson's temperature syndrome thyroid protocol. And she's also the author of Feed Your Cells, a gluten-free cookbook. She's recognized as a metabolic specialist in anti-aging and medical nutrition. Dr. Purcell has a specialty practice for hormone balancing, weight loss, and gastrointestinal concerns. She assists her patients by identifying the underlying cause of disease. She believes that increasing health on the inside shines through to the outside. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Andrea Purcell. And we're just going to change presenters here, so give us just a second. All right, take it away, Dr. Purcell.
Thank you so much, Eve, for that wonderful introduction. I just want to make sure that my screen is clear and that you can see it.
Yep, it looks wonderful.
Perfect. Okay, so we have close to 200 people on this call today, and that means that this is a really juicy topic. And there is something here that is speaking to a lot of us. And what I really want to do with this topic of weight loss today is show you a different perspective. And it's the naturopathic perspective, because we all know that perspectives change everything. And what I have found is that naturopathic medicine has the other side of the weight loss story. And that's because really with naturopathic medicine we ask the question why? Why does the person have this condition? Why did this disease manifest in this particular person in this particular way? And how can we correct the underlying imbalance without doing harm to the person? So as Eve mentioned, naturopathic medicine does treat the underlying cause while treating the symptoms at the same time. And weight gain is a symptom, and it does cause imbalances in the body. So really what we need to look at are the side effects of the weight gain. So for example, if the person has hypertension or type 2 diabetes, those are side effects often of weight gain, but also what the cause of the weight gain are. So simply telling a patient or a person to eat less or start a weight loss plan is really setting them up to fail. A much deeper understanding of the patient is needed in order to come up with the plan that will help them reach their goals and set them up to be successful long term. Because we don't want to lose weight temporarily, right? We want to achieve our goals and have them be long lasting. And for those of you who may be new to naturopathic medicine or may be interested in it, I really feel that this is the medicine of the future. And I feel that doctors are made, and they're made right here at SCNM. Doctors who listen, doctors who teach, and the doctors who do no harm. So before we talk about weight loss, I just want to mention a couple of the reasons why I love this profession. Because I get to teach my patients about their bodies, so people know what's happening. And they get to live their best life possible because they become empowered with their health. Also, I get to use all of my creative talents. It's like being, or having 5 professions wrapped into one. And it's most importantly, I know that I'm making a difference and I'm causing positive change in people's lives. And that really is something very special. And it's just so rewarding to see that aha moment come across a person's face as they understand the wisdom of their body and really they learn how to take better care of themselves. So with weight loss today, I want to talk about how our society views weight loss, which is completely different than the way we view it from the perspective of naturopathic medicine. And then we're going to move into a discussion of food and lifestyle. And there are all different kinds of people on this call. There are medical students, potential medical students, patients, others who are interested in achieving better health. So I want to encourage all of you to stick around until the end of the call, because I have a big announcement that I have never shared before, and I am excited to have you be the first to hear it. And we're also going to take questions at the end. So please stay on, because the questions usually are very juicy and you don't want to miss them. So let's get started. Okay, so I know this all looks familiar. So we've turned food into a carnival. We look to food to stimulate the senses, tantalize the taste buds, make us happy, give us energy, comfort us, and the food industry has realized this, and they are preying on us. The food industry is producing food-like products that are filled with fat, sugar, and salt, and making them irresistible to our taste buds. That's their goal, to make a food product irresistible so we can't stop eating it and we come back for more. So the thing with these food products is that they're lacking in essential nutrients. Nutrients that our bodies require to build and repair. So if you think about it this way, every single time you eat, Your body is panning for gold. It's mining for nutrients that it needs, looking for magnesium and vitamin E and selenium. And these food-like products are empty. Therefore, there are very few nutrients to be found. So let's look at this. High calorie, empty nutrition. So we're overfed and undernourished. Generally, a food product or a processed food will come in a bag, a box, or a can. And often it causes us to crave more and eat more. So they're appetite stimulating. And that's because we're not getting our nutritional requirements that we need. So our body is craving more and more. And here's where the food industry really comes in, because our taste buds become habituated to the stimulation of the sugar, the fat, and the salt, and we want more and more of it. So an example would be, once our taste buds turn and they become habituated to these types of foods, a carrot in its natural form no longer tastes sweet to us, and it's no longer sufficient to satisfy that sweet craving. So why are we as a country more overweight than ever, right? The SAD, I know you've heard about it, Standard American Diet, the SAD diet, and it equals sad health. And this statistic at the bottom of this slide was really interesting to me, because the food industry is producing 3,900 calories per person per day. And I know I'm not eating that many calories, so that means someone's eating my calories. And that's how much food is being pumped out. And again, it's not the nutrient-dense food, it's the nutritionally depleted food. Just to look at some dieting statistics, 69% of Americans are overweight or obese. And between 1960 and 2013, the average weight has increased by 24 pounds. So that means the average person is carrying around 24 more pounds than they were in the 1960s. And then the states with the highest obesity also have the highest incidence of hypertension and type 2 diabetes. So this is an example of how weight gain contributes to chronic disease, and specifically heart disease and diabetes. This slide really was, I think when I read this, my jaw fell open. So about a quarter of the U.S. population of adults eat less than one vegetable a day. Wow. And then there's impacts on our spending in the U.S. More than 75% of hypertension is attributed to obesity, right? Yeah, so there are thin people with normal BMIs who have hypertension, but many, many people have high blood pressure because they're overweight. And then look at these statistics on type 2 diabetes and how much it has increased over the last 20 years. So what's wrong with the weight loss industry? Well, it's really focused on weight loss and not health. And this is what most people don't understand. They think that when they go on a weight loss program, that they're going to achieve health at the same time. And this is a misnomer. This actually doesn't happen unless you're losing weight in a healthful way. And society views a diet as something that's temporary. I'm going to go on a diet, I'm going to lose some weight, and then I'm going to go back to my old life. And it doesn't really work that way, because the reason why we gained weight in the first place was because of our lifestyle and the way that we were eating, and we cannot return to that. So the current theory leads by the assumption that weight loss equals better health. So my question for you is, do you want to be healthy temporarily? And are you going to go back to eating and living the way you were before? Because that really wasn't working, and it's going to give you the same results. So the current approach to weight loss is really prepackaged food diets, right? Here's a list of some of them, filled with preservatives, toxins, chemicals, processed foods, not nutrient dense, not providing our body with what it needs to rebuild and restore. And most of these programs are focused on calories. I'm going to talk a little bit more in the next couple of slides about calories, calories in, calories out, how to measure, because this is really important. So the whole premise of, oh, I'm just going to reduce my calories or I'm going to reduce my portions doesn't always work. It's not based on the quality of the food. The next very common approach are the starvation diets. So I'm going to go on the cabbage soup diet, I'm going to go on a 7-day juice cleanse, all of these things. The starvation diets tend to burn muscle first and fat second. So as you're losing weight, unless you're really measuring the amount of muscle mass and the amount of fat mass, most people can't tell the difference and they just say, oh, I lost 2 pounds today. So the question is, did you lose muscle? Did you lose fat? Also, with a starvation diet, it's going to slow down the metabolism. And so when you get off the starvation diet, you might want to go back to the way that you're eating before, but now your metabolism is slower, and so you're going to gain more quickly. And then this is what sets people up to fail. They end up yo-yo dieting, and the mental self-talk and the frustration just really gets the best of people. So medicine has 2 theories on calories, and this is really important to understand. So there's the number 1, calories in minus calories out. The emphasis is on the quantity of food. Okay, I'll just eat less food and exercise more. The second theory is on the partitioning of the calories. So what I mean by this is, what does the body do with those particular calories? So it's an emphasis on the quality of food. And in naturopathic medicine, we believe that both theories are important to achieve successful weight loss. So it's the quantity, but it's also the quality of the food. And you'll see this really in this next study. So there was a study that came out last year by the American Medical Association, and they took 3 groups of people and they fed them these 3 different types of diets, 1, 2, and 3. And the results showed that the people in group 3, which it was a low-carb, high-fat, high-protein diet, had the largest amount of calories burned with the lowest amount of fat storage. So again, it's the quality and the quantity and the types of food. So what does this really mean? So it means that if we eat a 1,200 calorie diet of Cheetos a day versus a 1,200 calorie diet of fish and vegetables, our metabolism is going to change dramatically. The amount of calories that we burn changes dramatically, and the amount of fat that we store changes. So it can't just be, I'm going to eat 1,200 calories a day. So my next question is going to be for that person, well, what is going to make up those 1,200 calories? It's very, very important. And so what we're finding is it really all comes down to sugar. I mean, look at this. This is astounding. The average American eats 150 pounds of sugar each year. Yikes! I mean, those are like sandbags. And then, you know, the definition, what a lot of people don't realize is the definition of a carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are broken down into sugar. And so what you'll see here in this next bullet point is the list of all the things that are broken down into sugar that you maybe weren't thinking about, right? So maybe you weren't thinking that your grains were turning into sugar, or your breads were turning into sugar, or that fruit was turning into sugar, right? So those are all the carbohydrates. And then we have white flour. I'm going to talk a little bit about white flour. White flour actually robs the body of vital nutrients in order for it to be broken down. So white flour is bleached, and many of the nutrients are bleached out of white flour. So what happens is when we ingest white flour, it requires those nutrients to be put back in order to digest them, and those nutrients are taken from our body stores. So it's actually robbing us of vital nutrients. So it's sugar that's causing the weight gain, not the fat. And when we eat more carbohydrates, how does that manifest physically? Well, we get more water retention and bloating. abdominal bloating, just puffiness all over. And we have to be really careful with choosing the right carbohydrates. So the simple carbohydrates versus the complex carbohydrates. So the complex carbohydrates are the real food. The simple carbohydrates are more gravitating towards these food products. So an example would be wild rice versus pasta. So it's the sugar that's causing the weight gain, not the fat. And I listed this again, I know it was on the last slide, but look at these diseases that are linked to excess sugar consumption. You know, and sugar is the biggest drug out there. It's in grocery stores, it's in office supply stores, it's in our offices. I mean, it's everywhere we look, there's sugar. And look at these diseases. These are serious. These dramatically affect someone's life. They affect their quality of life. So what happened is that fat got a bad reputation. Fat was attacked in the 1970s and the 1980s, and our body only recognizes three things: fat, protein, and sugar. So I want to say that again. Our body only recognizes fat, protein, and sugar. So what happened was the food industry started eliminating the fat because there was a war on fat and high cholesterol, and we thought fat caused cholesterol to be elevated. And so what happened? It's kind of like a teeter-totter. So then the sugar content of our food was increased, and this has been going on for the last 30 or 40 years. And so as we take the fat out, the sugar and the carbohydrates in the food increases. And what I'll tell you is that carbohydrates are appetite stimulating. They stimulate us to eat more and want more, and that's what happens with sugar too. We need the fat to stabilize the sugar. Fat is satisfying. So if we eat a balanced meal of fat, protein, and carbohydrates, we will feel satisfied and we're not going to crave as much, and we will have appetite suppression. And then what I've done here is I put in some healthy fats for you to see at the bottom of this slide. So how are our genetics programmed? Well, our bodies are programmed to avoid death by starvation. And now that we live in a nation of 3,900 calories being produced per person per day, we're certainly not starving. However, we're starving for nutrients. So our genetics have not caught up with the abundance of food that we have, and our genetics don't know that there is no risk of starvation. So we are programmed to crave fat, sugar, and salt, and this is what the food companies have manipulated so that we continue to eat more, consume more, have our appetites be stimulated, and really crave this food that has become irresistible. And let me tell you, a lot of money is spent on research and product testing by food companies. And their goal is to make convenience foods with a long shelf life that look like food and taste like food and literally keep you going back for more. So it's partially our genetics that they're preying on and that we're up against here. Sleep. If you are a person who's trying to lose weight, or if you're going to coach your patient and help them lose weight, it is essential that they go to bed before midnight. All of the studies show that patients who go to bed later will have a higher BMI, body mass index, higher fat mass, and compared to a person who goes to bed earlier. So let's look at these numbers here. The invention of the light bulb, people slept 10 hours a night, right before the light bulb got invented. Today, people are sleeping an average of 6 to 7 hours a night. So if we skimp on sleep, we will have a higher body mass index. Also, with the artificial light, the long hours of daylight are promoting increased carbohydrate consumption. So we're craving more carbs when we keep the lights on, which causes more insulin to be released from the pancreas, and then more fat storage in the person. So remember, insulin equals insulation. I want you to think about that hormone that way. It is known as the fat storage hormone. So when we eat the carbohydrates, they get converted to sugar. Insulin is released from the pancreas, opens the doors to the cells, and shuttles all that sugar in to be stored as fat. So that's why insulin equals insulation. The less sleep we get, the more body fat that we have. I'm sure that many of you have heard about the hormone leptin. Leptin decreases appetite. There was a study from the University of Washington on twins, and it showed that less than 7 hours of sleep turned on the obesity genes and created a leptin deficiency. So again, leptin decreases appetite. So if we sleep the normal hours of, say, down with the sundown, up with the sunrise, which is around 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., it allows for the release of melatonin from our pineal gland in our brain, which enhances leptin. So if we get less sleep, less melatonin, less leptin, increased appetite. So there's a little bit of biochemistry that affects all the hormones, and why patients who are sleep deprived or don't sleep at the appropriate times have a higher body mass index. All right, hidden causes of weight gain. All right, all of these ingredients, diet soda causes carbohydrate cravings. That's why the statistics of people who drink diet soda, they actually weigh more than the people who drink regular soda. So even though it looks like it doesn't have a lot of calories, it will cause more cravings. Monosodium glutamate, carbohydrates are appetite stimulating, and again, they promote water retention and bloating in the body. And then once we eat sugar, we're just going to need more and more each day to satisfy our brains. Okay, so this really is from a naturopathic perspective, the hidden causes of weight gain. And each one of these bullet points could be its own individual presentation. But I do want to touch on each one of these so you understand the role that they play with people and with weight. Specifically, I would say this is really important for women. 70% of the people that come to see naturopathic doctors are female. And it's really important to realize that often more than one thing can be contributing to her unhealth. So it's often not as simple as, oh, I can't lose weight, can you help me lose weight? It's a question of looking at each one of these things and figuring out what it is for that person, which will help unlock the key to their weight loss. So let's take food sensitivities, for example. Food sensitivities and digestive health can contribute to weight in one of two ways. Either the patient will not be able to gain weight due to compromised digestion, or they will not be able to lose it due to food sensitivities. So again, it could be, either way. I've seen patients have a really hard time gaining, and then also patients have a really hard time losing, depending on their metabolism and how well their digestive function is working. But I will tell you that foods that are inflammatory will cause the body to swell, hold on to water weight, and prevent fat loss. They're also going to cause abdominal bloating and really contribute to ill health. So food sensitivities are a big one, and again, this can be discussed in its whole other lecture topic. Hormonal imbalances are critical for weight gain and really for women's health. So often more than one gland can be involved, and it's so important to assess all when evaluating for hormonal weight gain. So some of the hormones to look at include thyroid, cortisol, insulin, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So if a woman does not have sufficient testosterone, her muscle mass will decline and her fat mass will increase. This is something I see a lot. A person will come in and say, I think I have a thyroid problem, that's why I can't lose weight. And yes, maybe their thyroid is contributing, but if you just fix thyroid, the weight, don't expect the weight to just fly off of someone. They need to be on a good food plan. They need to have good nutritional coaching. Their other glands need to be balanced. my big thing is when I say women's health is circular, it's not linear. It's not black or white. We're going to go from A to B. We have to get all of the pieces of this puzzle together, and then the woman's going to achieve the results that she really wants. Okay, improper body detoxification. This equates to taking out the garbage. And this is very important. The organs of elimination must be working properly to rid the body of waste products. So if waste is backing up in the system, it's going to be deposited in the fat tissue, the organs, and really lead to ill health. And the most important thing is colon health. So a constipated person can have between 3 to 5 pounds of stool sitting in their colon at any one time. And weight loss and detoxification become impossible to achieve with a sluggish colon. So that's one of the first things that I ask someone when they come in and they're interested in losing weight. I ask them how they're eliminating. Because if we're going to burn all this fat and we're going to mobilize it out of the body, how is it going to leave if the colon is plugged up? So we really want to make sure these organs of elimination are working properly. Okay, so this is where the other side of the story from naturopathic medicine comes in. The word diet comes from the Greek term dietetia, and it literally means way of life. It's the way that we live. So what you start to see here is that the way that we think about diets and dieting in this country is totally skewed. We think about a diet as temporary. Naturopathic medicine thinks of a diet as the way we live our lives day after day. And yes, people will come in, they want a diet, they want a quick fix. And it really is the role of the naturopathic doctor to gently steer them towards health as they lose the weight. And if we don't do this, then we're going to come up short, and the patient's going to return to their old habits, and they're going to gain the weight back. And I love this. Chris Carr says this: we are what we eat, drink, and think. So there's no secret formula. There's no quick fix to sustaining a healthy weight. What we need to do is we need to adopt new habits. We need to adopt healthy food choices. We need to create new relationships with food so that food equals health in our mind, not a reward. Food does not equal a reward. It equals health. New relationship with our body image, new relationship with exercise and how we view it. So with the art of successful weight loss, we really need to encourage the patient along the way. This is step by step following the yellow brick road to replace their old choices with new ones that they enjoy and they look forward to. And patients have to see results. Even if the results are slow and steady, it's better than none. Results must be part of this equation. Finding the pitfalls in someone's life and supporting them with healthy alternatives. And just really listening to what they say. I mean, with my patients, I ask them what they've tried in the past, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. How did they mentally sabotage themselves? I mean, most people come in, if they're coming in for weight loss, they've already tried it on their own and they need help, right? So I want to find out what they did before. I ask about their lifestyle. I ask about their daily routine. How long is their commute to work? What time do they get home? If they cook, what their sleep is like. And I take things into consideration based on the patient's age and their hormonal status. And then I ask questions, do they have high blood pressure? Are they borderline diabetic? Or can I determine it from their labs? And how is weight affecting their health? So most importantly, I want to hear from them what they want to do or what they want to have in life that they don't have now because their weight is holding them back. I really want to hear from them what they value the most. And that's what I work into my program. So this is where naturopathic medicine shines. And this is where we get the success that we want for our patients and our patients want for themselves. So it's the doctor who takes the time to listen and truly comes up with a specific plan And unfortunately, this will never happen in the conventional medical model because all of this information cannot be assimilated and put together in a 7 to 10 minute office visit. So what we've learned so far. So we've learned that achieving a healthy weight is about putting health first and weight loss second. The quality of the food is as important as the quantity, right? So what is making up those 1,200 calories a day? Sugar, sugar, sugar promotes fat storage, right? So it's sugar that is the problem, not so much the fat. We have to be sleeping in a proper way on a regular routine, and we have to be aware of these food products and how they're making us sick, and how they cause us to store more fat. We've learned about the definition of a real diet, coming from the Greek word diatetia, way of life, and the role of naturopathic medicine in restoring a healthy weight. So really, how much is health worth? And can we put a price tag on it? I mean, without health, what do we have? Are we able to work? Not very well. Are we able to travel? Well, we won't enjoy it very much. Can we contribute to our relationships? I mean, health is priceless. It allows us to have a platform for the rest of our lives so everything else falls into place. So we can pursue our passion and our bliss and contribute to the world. So our health is so, so important. And I really believe that health begins on the inside and shines through to the outside. And the foundation of health, if you think about it like a pyramid, really is nutrition and having that solid foundation so that our body can mine for those nutrients and feed the rest of our body with it. And I just love this quote, this Ayurvedic quote. And I'm going to read it to you. When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is correct, medicine is of no need. And I think that's really beautiful. So again, I know we have so many people on this call from all different walks of life. And I want to encourage all of you to stay on as we move into the questions and my big announcement. But before we do, I want to talk and really speak to those of you who are considering the naturopathic profession. And I just want to share a couple of things. The way that I view naturopathic medicine is that it has no ceiling. And if you choose to go into this profession, you can choose from a variety of hats. You could be a doctor, a teacher, a writer, a speaker, a business owner, an employee, a researcher, a counselor, a political lobbyist. Literally, the list goes on and on. And it can be as broad or narrow as you like. But for me, naturopathic medicine made me come alive. Naturopathic medicine allowed me to unlock my gifts and turn them into service for humanity. And that really is the fire that fuels me every day. And the really neat thing is that as I heal others, I'm able to heal myself and my family at the same time. So becoming a naturopathic doctor has allowed me to live on purpose and have a huge impact on helping people get to the next level in their lives. And I really feel that this profession benefits the world by empowering people through teaching, listening, and healing. So if what I'm saying is ringing a bell inside of you and you're nodding your head right now, then this profession is for you and this school is for you. It literally changes lives. So now I'm excited to share my big announcement. All of you are the first to hear about it, and I'm really happy to be revealing it on the call today. After a lot of thought, I realized that a big challenge my patients faced with healthy eating was around social events. So it was with this thought that I created my new ebook called Festive Feasts. And it's filled with over 100 healthy recipes. And it also contains patient stories, because I thought that this was really important. about how eating has changed their lives for the better. So all of you are the first to hear about it, and I invite you to read more. So as a free bonus for checking it out, you can access my podcast on digestive health. And if you just go to that link, askdrpurcell.com/festive feasts to read about it, and you can get the bonus digestive lecture. We are taking pre-orders now, and the official release date for Festive Feasts is November 13th. And with that, I want to take questions. So Eve, are you there?
I am, and wow, what a great announcement. Thanks for sharing that on the call, Dr. Purcell. That sounds perfect, and such a timely time of year to announce this with holiday parties and holidays coming up.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. We do have questions, and just a reminder that if you have questions about Dr. Purcell's presentation or if you have questions about SCNM, you can type those into the question box in your control panel. So the first question is about gluten, and of course everybody has heard of gluten-free diets, and this individual is wondering if the elimination of gluten is good for everyone's diet, or if eliminating it, those who don't really have an intolerance or allergy, if those people still benefit.
That's such a good question. So just for everyone on the call, the first cookbook that I came out with is a published cookbook, and it is gluten-free, and it specifically addresses the inflammation that comes when people consume gluten. Now, not everyone is sensitive to gluten, and certainly not everyone has celiac disease. And if we do not have a sensitivity to it, whole wheat flour can be very nutritious. Rye, barley, some of the other things that contain gluten. So it's really a question of having a person who is wondering if they're sensitive eliminate it for about 21 days and then bring it back into their life and see if they notice any negative symptoms. So some of the common symptoms, gluten equals glue. It's the glue that holds breads and cakes and things together. And wheat flour and white flour, all of that contains gluten. So some of the common symptoms that people will notice will be congestion in the back of their throat, in their sinuses, maybe fluid in their ears, constipation, diarrhea, some of these digestive things, also fatigue, achiness. So not everyone needs to avoid gluten, but gluten can be inflammatory for many people. And the reason why it is because we eat it multiple times a day in this, the American diet is filled with gluten. So what I generally have people do is do the elimination diet for 21 days and avoid it, and then reintroduce it and see if you notice these symptoms in your body. I would never recommend that with a celiac patient, and for some of my patients who have more severe health challenges, I would rather do a food allergy test and test to see if gluten comes up or if wheat or rye or barley come up instead of doing the elimination.
Thank you. And a related question, do you have, what do you think about sourdough bread? The question says, what do you think about sourdough bread? I know it can be made with unbleached flour or even rye flour. Might that be a better alternative than, for example, white bread?
Okay, well, when it comes to weight loss, if someone's really trying to lose weight, I wouldn't recommend any bread. So I just want to say that because that's the topic of today. The benefit of sourdough bread is that it's made with sourdough starter and not yeast. This is important because the more food allergy tests that I do on patients, the more I see yeast come up. So yeast, similar to wheat, is in many things that we eat multiple times a day in the American diet. So what I'm seeing now is that people are developing sensitivities to yeast. And so if that's an issue and the person doesn't react to wheat, then they are able to eat the sourdough bread because it is yeast-free.
Okay, great. Very helpful. You talked quite a bit about eliminating sugar. Can you share any tips and techniques of how we might kill the sugar cravings?
Yes, the first 3 days of eliminating sugar are going to be the hardest. It's kind of like trying to kick coffee at the beginning. I've found that green tea will help balance the sugar cravings, especially mid-afternoon. And also, if you're balancing the meals with the appropriate amount of fat and protein so that you're not hungry. If you're just having carbohydrates, even if they're complex carbohydrates, you're still going to be hungry and want to crave some of that sugar.
I will be drinking some green tea this afternoon. Thank you for that. Very practical.
Perfect.
So another question, would nuts be considered a healthy fat, and how much fat should a person consume a day and still lose weight?
Now that's a tricky question because it depends on the person. So nuts would be considered healthy fat. Nuts are also protein. So I consider them to be half protein, half fat. So they're very good at balancing blood sugar, so they are a nice snack. What I do with patients is if I give them, say, a certain amount of calories per day, let's say it's 1,400 calories per day, then I give them the breakdown of how many grams of carbohydrate, how many grams of fat, and how many grams of protein should make up those 1,400 calories. So when we're looking at fat, it may be anywhere from 40 to 50 grams.
Okay, thank you. So another question, we have somebody on the call who has been eating a whole food, low sugar diet for about 10 years, but she finds that she has to eat so much of those whole and healthy foods because she's always hungry and has a large appetite. So she feels like she can't get her weight any lower without starving herself, even though she's eating whole foods. Any general recommendations that you might be able to make?
Sounds like we have to dive down into the details of that one. What I would say is for her, I would use the answer from the last question, which would be really to look at how many grams of protein and fat you're getting and how many grams of carbohydrate. So maybe we need to increase the protein and fat, and we can still reduce the carbohydrates, and that's what gets us back into that that quality conversation. It's the quality, which is the breakdown of the foods that you're eating on a daily basis.
Okay, and I think that also leads into the next question, which is, looking at an individual's health, and we are wondering if you're taking new patients, if you'd be able to help folks with that.
Yes, I'm taking new patients at my Scottsdale office.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit around the questions and ask some questions of you about the naturopathic profession. And although you practice in licensed states, Arizona and California, can you speak at all about employment prospects or opportunities for NDs who work in unlicensed states to be successful? Can you offer any perspective on that?
I'm originally from New York, and New York is not a licensed state. And I have seen many of the doctors that graduated around the same time as I did, are now successful in New York State. Again, I feel like this profession, you can wear many hats with this profession. So I think that if you're passionate about the message, then you will find the lock and key that works for you. I do think that it is more challenging to practice in an unlicensed state because you have less availability towards labs and things. We are trained as primary care physicians, and if you're not able to run the labs, there are some challenges that way. But of the doctors that I know that practice there, they found loopholes and they were able to make it work.
Thank you. And also, this is a good opportunity to plug our next webinar, which will be at the end of November, that will focus specifically on careers and compensation for naturopathic doctors, and will certainly address the topic of practicing in unlicensed states. So hopefully those of you that are interested in that will be able to join us for that webinar at the end of November. But thanks for sharing that perspective, Dr. Purcell. Okay, back to food questions. So when you say that patients should watch their carb intake, does that include carbs in vegetables?
Carbs in vegetables are the best carbs. However, when we're talking about, I'm going to use the menopausal patient as an example. In menopause, the metabolism slows down quite a bit. And so what the menopausal woman needs to do to lose weight is completely different than what she needed to do when she was 35. So between 35 and 50, the metabolism completely changes. And so I often hear this, from my patients, gosh, Dr. Purcell, I tried the things that normally work for me and it's not working. Or I hired a personal trainer and I've been working out 3 times a week for a year and I haven't lost a pound. And so when we really start to dive into not just the quantity but the quality of the food, what we find is that, yes, even the vegetables are counted as carbohydrates. And we have to look at what the breakdown of them are. So, for example, if it's a sweet potato or a starchier vegetable, it is going to be broken down into more sugar than, say, a piece of broccoli or asparagus or something like that. So, yes, those get counted, and that's what many people don't realize. So it's not just the grains. It's not just the sugary things. Okay, I don't eat sugar. But yes, I eat my complex grains. Yes, I eat 1 to 2 servings of fruit a day, right? And fruit is supposed to be healthy. And I'm eating, this huge bowl of vegetables. So when push comes to shove and the metabolism isn't budging, yes, you have to look at your vegetables too. You have to cut out all those extra things and then look at how many carbs you're getting from your vegetables.
Okay, thank you. And so to that point, can you give any general guidelines as far as what the percentage breakdown of one's diet should be around protein, fats, and carbs?
Gosh, that's hard because it depends on where someone is in their, in their age bracket and also how active they are. So if someone is not menopausal and they're not dealing with as many hormonal challenges, they can eat more calories and they can have more leniency with the carbohydrates. If you are perimenopausal or menopausal or beyond menopause, you don't have any wiggle room at all. So for example, if someone is 35, and I say, okay, you can eat 1,400 calories a day and 60 grams need to come from protein and 40 need to come from fat and less than 100, between 80 and 100 need to come from carbs, that's going to be a different breakdown than the menopausal woman. She may get less calories and she may get less carbs.
Okay. And so again, related, somebody is saying that they hear it's about 80% diet and 20% exercise when it comes to weight loss. What is your perspective on that? And generally, if you could just speak to how much exercise you think one needs to supplement or add to their daily routine when they're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, that is such a good question. I'm so glad somebody asked that. I agree. I feel that diet is 70 to 80%, and then exercise is the other 20 to 30% to achieve health and successful weight loss. And this is not what the exercise and fitness industry will lead us to believe. They just say, reduce your portions, exercise more. And the case in point is the example I just gave about the menopausal woman who worked out with a trainer 3 times a week for a year and didn't lose a pound. So it's not so much the rigorous exercise and how much you're burning as it is about what you're actually eating and how that food is being metabolized for you. So again, back to the food sensitivities and things like that, I mean, some people may not be able to handle any dairy products at all. They may be only able to eat 1 serving of fruit a day with protein and carbohydrates and some healthy fats. So each and every one of us has a magic formula, because say, for example, you're sensitive to dairy, you're going to get increased water weight, you're going to get bloating, your tummy's not going to feel so good. So yes, and I generally have patients exercise somewhere. I don't have them do a lot of cardio, usually 20 to 30 minutes of cardio. I mean, you really shouldn't be on the elliptical for 45 to 60 minutes. It's not going to help you lose any more weight. And then you do need to do some weight training or some body weight exercises or some core, things like that. So really maybe the whole workout is a total of 45 minutes. Also, I want to stress that patients who suspect, or people who suspect that they have hormonal imbalances, may not be able to exercise at all at the beginning because they're so depleted. So if they have thyroid or adrenal problems, all of that needs to get squared away. And one of the comments that I often get from my patients is, "Oh, Dr. Purcell, you didn't tell me to exercise." And I look them in the eye and I say, "You are so fatigued. You're not getting proper sleep. Your hormones are in the bucket. Why would I ask you to exercise? It's kind of like beating a dead horse right now. Yes, you need to lose weight. Yes, we need to get your hormones balanced. And the exercise will come." So I work in exercise based on the patient. Maybe it's going to be 4 weeks into their plan. Maybe it's going to be 8 weeks into their plan as their vitality increases. And believe me, they can lose weight the entire time without exercising. So yes, diet is the cornerstone.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Purcell, can we go over a few minutes for some additional questions?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, perfect. So we do have a number of questions left, but before I throw those out, I do want to just share a couple other quick slides with you, and then we'll return to questions. So I do want to, as Dr. Purcell talked, you could, of course, explore your path of being a naturopathic physician by attending SCNM, which is probably how many of you on the webinar heard about the webinar, is that you're considering admission to SCNM. So very quickly, just want to share with you what our admission requirements are. We do require a 4-year bachelor's degree and completion of prerequisite coursework that you see there on your screen. And we do use a centralized application service called NDCAP, where you need to submit transcripts, letters of recommendation, essays, all of those basic things. I will note that we are still accepting applications for our January intake, as well as, of course, next fall. If you have not had an opportunity to visit SCNM, if you're from out of town, I would encourage you to come visit us at any point. But I do want to point out that we have our open house coming up on Saturday, November 9th. And we do have 2 tracks, one for prospective students and also those for community members that just want to learn more about taking control of their own health naturally. And another plug for Dr. Purcell, she'll actually be presenting at Discovery Day about food allergies, I believe. So another great opportunity to meet with Dr. Purcell and hear her in person. So you can find out more information about Discovery Day with the link there that's on your screen. And again, if you have any questions about admissions, SCNM, I encourage you to reach out to me. So thanks for letting me share that. And then let me go back to our questions. Okay, so Dr. Purcell, can you talk about your opinion about individuals going vegan?
Yeah. So I don't hang out in any one camp. I'm not in the vegan camp, the vegetarian camp, the paleo camp, because what I found is that certain diets work for certain people. And some people come to me and they've got themselves on a plan that really is working, and others don't. So generally when a patient comes to me and they're vegetarian or vegan, I ask them why they are. And, you know, I'm seeking out whether or not it's for ethical reasons, religious reasons, if they just thought that it was healthy and so they decided to do it, you know, if they love animals and they just can't bear to, you know, have any animal products. I mean, so that's really important because I try to match up what they're coming in for and analyze whether the diet that they're currently on is working for them or what kind of diet I need to put them on. So with the vegan diet, you know, and for those of you that don't know, vegan does not include any animal products at all, where vegetarians are able to eat eggs and dairy products that do come from animals. So the vegan would be no animal products, no eggs, no dairy. You know, it is useful for conditions, patients who have kidney conditions. Many cancers react very well to the vegetarian/vegan diet. It just depends on the condition. If someone's coming in with horrible blood sugar crashes, hypoglycemia, they can't seem to balance their blood sugars, I then will lean more towards a flesh protein-based diet for them. You know, I have had patients with bad hypoglycemia and PCOS who, you know, ethically want to be vegetarian or vegan, and I just let them know, based on their individual condition, that it will take longer for them to get better as we work within the parameters that they request. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview. It's, again, this medicine is not protocol medicine. This is very individualized care, and it's based on, you know, the knowledge that we have of the body, you know, the art and the science, and then matching it up with the person in front of us. And that's why, you know, I don't lean heavily when it comes to nutrition in any one direction, because I've seen different things work for different people in different conditions.
And to that point about the medicine not being so prescriptive and it being more specific to the individual, I think this will be your answer for the next couple of questions, but I do just want to acknowledge them. We do have a couple of questions from individuals that are wondering how they can rebuild individuals' health through food. So, for example, one person has cancer and is 3 weeks post-stem cell transplant, and the individual is wondering how they might rebuild their health through food. We have somebody else who's wondering, who's a female who's coming off the pill and has experienced severe hair loss and headaches. And again, I suspect that the answer is go see an ND and let them figure out what's going on with your particular situation.
Yeah, really the best thing is individualized care. And so in the first scenario with healing from cancer and the stem cell therapy, what's really needed in this situation is a solid nutritional foundation. So it's food and just rebuild. I don't know what all the specifics are, but often, you know, when I look at lab work, I can see whether there are certain vitamin and mineral deficiencies, things that need to be corrected. Often based on certain treatments, patients have a lot of side effects and organ systems become broken down if they pursue conventional therapy like chemotherapy, and those systems need to be rebuilt nutritionally with naturopathic medicine. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario is the person who's coming off the birth control pill, and the thing about the birth control pill is that it's great for birth control, and that's it. So probably more than half the women in the United States who are on the birth control pill are on it to correct a hormonal imbalance. And this is really important. So birth control pills are not going to correct a hormonal imbalance. They're just going to mask the symptoms of it and keep the person functional. So when you wean down off the birth control pill, you know, my first question is, why did you go on it to begin with? And if it was to mask a hormonal imbalance, well then that hormonal condition still needs to be addressed. So this poor woman who's having hair loss and feels miserable should get herself to a naturopathic doctor so all those little details can get flushed out and that hormonal imbalance can be corrected.
Great advice. Thank you. We have somebody on the line who is trying to get away from all grain flours and heard that sweet potato flour is a healthy alternative. And she's wondering if you have any perspective on that, and if so, if you know of a good brand that isn't overly processed.
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I haven't experimented very much with the sweet potato flour. In the paleo cookbooks that are very popular right now, obviously the paleo diet does not use any grains, and the most common flours would be the nut flours like pecan or almond meal or almond flour. Also the coconut flours, fava flours would be options, you know, from fava beans. I would really have to look up the glycemic index on the sweet potato flour and see what they're doing with it, because again, I don't have a whole lot of experience with that, so that's a good question.
Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Purcell. Any take on, any perspective on orthomolecular nutrition?
Well, there certainly is the supplement company, Orthomolecular, and then I'm not really sure what the person's asking about orthomolecular nutrition.
Okay, all right. So if that individual is still on the line, if you want to add to that question, we can certainly throw it back out. Okay, so question more about the profession. Can you share some perspective about the key differences between an ND approach to health and just a chiropractic approach?
Well, I'm not a chiropractor. However, I've been to probably more than 30 chiropractors in my lifetime.
I'd say that makes you an expert to answer the question.
Yeah. And I certainly have other naturopathic colleagues who have also attended chiropractic school. And so what I would say is that when you graduate as a naturopathic doctor, you're licensed as a primary care physician. Chiropractors are not primary care physicians. They don't have the ability to do vitamin injections. In some states they can order labs, in some states they can't. They do not get extensive training in nutritional biochemistry, supplement herb drug interactions. I mean, really the focus of chiropractic care is chiropractic. It's the spine and how nerves leaving the spine can innervate the organs and how that can contribute to health or ill health. So I would say that the chiropractic focus is a smaller focus, and it's different from being a primary care physician. The responsibility of being a primary care physician is greater. And the way that I see the naturopathic doctor is kind of like at the top of the tree as the primary care physician, and then with a swinging door, so we can refer people out to conventional specialists like cardiologists and endocrinologists and rheumatologists, but our door also swings the other way, which is referring people to chiropractors or acupuncturists or hypnotherapists or therapists. So as the holistically trained primary care physician, we have the ability to have a foot in each world. And that means that we can refer the client where they need to go in the way that's best for them.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Dr. Purcell, any final words or any or advice that you can share with individuals on the call about the first thing that they should do as they're looking at losing weight? What's the best thing that they can start doing for themselves right now?
Okay. So what I would do is I would check in with myself. Okay, I want to lose weight. And I would ask myself the questions of that slide with the 3 bullet points. Do I think that I have any food sensitivities, and what might they be? So I might write those down. Do I think that I have any hormonal imbalances, you know, and what might I suspect based on my family history or how I've been feeling? 3, how is my digestive system working? You know, if you're a constipated person, you're going to be swimming uphill as far as your success with weight loss. So I think it's about recognizing the specifics of yourself and just kind of writing them down. Maybe you never thought about it before, or maybe it's time to get honest. You know, if you suspected this whole time that you're sensitive to dairy, but you're in denial because you love feta cheese, well, now's the time to write it down. And then once you have that information, I would really start planning out meals that are balanced in the fats, the protein, and the carbs like we talked about. 3 meals a day with some healthy snacks in between, and just really try to eat as cleanly as possible. The next thing that I do would be to probably sign up for an online program like MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal.com is an online program. It's pretty inexpensive, where you can track your food and you can put in the food. And the cool thing about it is that it gives you the breakdown of your total calories for the day, your total protein, your total fat, and your total carbohydrates. And then you can start to see your own breakdown of what you're actually eating, because just thinking that you're eating healthfully, that may not be the secret formula for you. And then what I do with my patients is, if they're using a program like that, I tell them to send me their login and password so I can review it. And then I make the suggestions on how they need to tweak their diet so that it works for them based on their individual needs.
That's great. Great advice. Great first steps. Well, Dr. Purcell, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us this morning, sharing your words of wisdom and such great advice to everybody on the call. As you said, this is certainly a very hot topic, and it hits home for a lot of people. And so I appreciate you sharing such great practical advice with everybody on the line. For those of you that are interested in watching a recording of this webinar, it will be available on our website in about a week, and we'll send you a link to it once that's ready. So Dr. Purcell, thank you again so very, very much. This was very, very informative. We appreciate your support and for sharing this great information with everybody on the line. Thanks to those of you that did dial in this morning. Like I said, we'll have the recording on our website in about a week, and I hope that you'll be able to join us for our next webinar at the end of November, which will focus on naturopathic careers and tell you a little bit more about the opportunities that are available to you once you graduate. So thank you again so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see some of you at our open house on November 9th. Thanks again, Dr. Purcell, for your time.
Take care, Eve.
For joining us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.